optimizing your people. And this has been a real sore over the last, since coming out of the pandemic. If you think back prior to that time, it has been for the last 20 or 30 years we've struggled with staffing. So the biggest thing with staffing is to make sure that you increase your retention. So keep away from the turnover. The job market is starting to slow. You've seen a lot of the tech companies laying people off. Housing will probably start slowing down somewhat as we have higher interest rates. So a lot of the people that have spun out into construction might be looking for additional hours, maybe back to hospitality. So the job market is slowing. And that second bullet point on there, which I think is very interesting, is that personal savings is back to historical normal low levels. So everybody that got all of that stimulus, even as late as March, April, still had a bunch of money in the bank. Now it's all gone, according to ITR Economics. And ITR is a great company if you want to follow them and read their blog. Always looking ahead, and it's one of the most widely respected companies that I know of in the economic world, and they're very honest and very truthful and trustworthy in my opinion. And they put out a study on the 14th that basically said, hey, all that stimulus money's gone and the economy's slowing. You need to know your cost of turnover and value retention. It's one of the things that we don't do a great job of, is we don't calculate the cost of turnover as we're thinking of people, and then we get to them too late. So we're $1 short, $2 short on somebody that you know their market level could be a lot higher. You really need to know what the right wage is. If everybody's paying 25 and you're paying 20, you're not going to get the right people. If everybody's paying 25 and you've got people that you've had with you and they're making 27, 28, that's going to be a real win. So let those people, if they're A players, work overtime to make more money. And if they're engaged, truly engaged, they are 3 times more efficient. They'll give you a day and a half of productivity for a full day of pay. And if you're disengaged or somewhat disengaged, only a half a day for a full day pay. So those numbers come from Engagement, which is another great company. So that engagement quotient there, 300% if you're engaged. So make sure you take care of your A players, because if you lose them, it could take you 1, 2, maybe 3 people to replace them. And I think we've all seen that, or we've been a little bit too late to the party. So check in with those A players, make sure they're happy, make sure they're making enough money, find out if they've been approached by other people, find out what their friends are saying, but make sure you pay them at a premium, at a minimum. Let them work overtime if you just don't have the budget, because they're going to give you the same productivity as somebody that works a half a day, and they're going to want to get off the clock and get home. You should also think about a profit sharing program to share with your key employees, not bonuses. Bonuses, I think, are a disincentive. I think profit sharing is an incentive to make as much as you want to make, because we're all sharing in it. Look at an alternative workforce. I think that there's some, kind of an older workforce that's like, I'm kind of bored, I'm ready to go back to work. So there's some opportunity. And then work with your vendor partners to prep ingredients and recipes. We're starting to see a lot of this with the more sophisticated operators that we work with, where they are, they're having their soups made, they're having their salsas made, they're having their meat cut, they're having their onions cut, and things have chopped up for them, because their vendors could do it in bulk. Just make sure that you eliminate hours to cover the increased cost. Because when we did this at my first company that I worked at, we thought it was a great idea. We're going to buy all of our onions sliced, and we're going to get our peppers diced, and we're going to get all our dressings made, and our soup's going to come in made, and it's going to be, open the bucket and cut the bag, and we'll be off and running. The problem is we didn't cut any hours that went with it. They just became less efficient. And right now is the time that you want to optimize efficiency in all the areas of your business. And then automate functions through technology and proven technology techniques. That's things like doing sous vide, where you can cook 10 or 12 things at the same time, and then reheat them or finish them. Combi ovens, different pieces of technology that can help. Even some robotics in some cases are starting to make their way in. So not a super big fan of a robot delivering food. Cool idea, but not very engaging. But it is a cool idea, and it would help with the front of the house. But I don't think we have a real server issue finding people to serve tables. It's more kitchen is more the pain than the front. So we want to find ways to really help the kitchen because it's not going to get better. It may get a little better with the job market slowing, but it's never been great in the back. So right now, a lot of our clients are fully staffed in the kitchen, which is a little bit scary because as we drop off in sales, they're going to be overstaffed. And that's what happened to technology is they estimated that, the average technology had they were 100% overstaffed and a really great company that could attract a lot of talent were 3 to 4 times more overstaffed than they needed to be. And as soon as the economy started slowing down, they started laying people off. We want to get ahead of the curve. We want to automate those functions wherever we can automate them with technology, even using technology in the kitchen like KDS, make sure that they're using a kitchen display system to move things along to help them manage a little bit better because as we get a less experienced workforce, we need to help them more, and technology is a great way to do that. The Achilles heel, I think, in the restaurant industry, we use a lot of support staff. And I really like to see those numbers, between 25, right around 25%. So a lot of times we'll see 1, 2, 3 servers and 1, 2, or 3 bussers. And I don't think that that's the right ratio. I think you want to have people that can service your guest, not just run food around. So I think you want to make sure that everybody is getting cross-trained so that they can step in when they need to, because that last bullet point on there says prepare for COVID-19 absences. We are seeing a tremendous amount of absence on the East Coast, and they're generally about 6 weeks ahead of us. This is like New York City. So when we discuss this as a team, we really need to get the word out to be ready. And I think we're seeing that already where people are missing shifts, but it could get really bad through the fall and the winter. And that's where that repurposing the support staff can really come in. Make them more productive. Have the front desk not just running people to a table and running back and standing there, but procuring the dining room, being a host, running through and pulling dishes and helping to expo and getting away from just standing at the front desk to greet people. They can keep an eye on that door and they can run over and they can greet when they need to. And other people can help greet as well. But turning the front desk into a producer, bussers and runners into producers, help produce revenue. Are they helping to pre-bus? Are they helping to run food? My biggest fear and my biggest complaint is servers a lot of times take the order and then everybody else does the rest, and then they kind of drop the ticket and pick up the tip. And we really need to make sure that that gets reversed, that the servers are actually working with the tables really heavily rather than just kind of taking orders. So we need to drive check average at the table, and that comes with the servers being at the table and in their section, playing their own dishes, pre-bussing, checking in on things several times, not just once. A lot of times we'll see a server once after they've had the food delivered. They should be at the table several times, just kind of listening in to see if anybody needs anything, just like you would at your house. So dish, I think, needs to be trained on prep, and then prep really needs to cover the line. So prep needs to move into the shift, and I know the biggest worry about prep is I'll lose my prep cooks if I move their hours around. I think we need to take a fresh look at that and say if we need to start restaffing that for the business, it's time. Because we shouldn't have just people prepping, come in and prep, and then they leave. They should be able to hop up on the line and help, or the people on the line should be prepping as well. And then we should also use those idle moments for portioning, have the back and the front portioning. So the front, they can portion items for the kitchen. They just need access to that. So things that are okay to come out in the front, portioning, they can help portion as well. Portioning is the biggest control of food cost that there is in the restaurant, I believe. If you have a couple of locations, you can see if one portions and one doesn't. Oftentimes the one that portions has a better result than the one that doesn't. Make sure that you're matching, again, to optimize the people back to that chart that I showed a little bit earlier. Make sure you're matching the hours to the peaks in the business. And that includes the kitchen, not just the front, but making sure that prep is working over the top of those busy times, so that they can help out and they're cross-trained, because COVID-19 abscesses are going to be on the rise again. And if you have these people cross-trained in prep and dish, and busser and runner, the front desk, they can hop in and they can help, and that'll smooth it and optimize the floor. You also want to instill an ownership mentality with them. And I wanted to pull some stuff from Amazon because I think they do a really great job around this. So years and years and years ago, they had a holiday party when Amazon was small enough. And as the story goes, they went to the hall where they were holding the party, and they drug in the Christmas tree, and they were ready to set it up. And one marketing guy looks at the other and says, "Hey, where's the base?" And one looks at the other and says, "Well, I thought you grabbed it." "No, I didn't. I thought you grabbed it." And then one of the guys comes up with a really brilliant idea and says, "Why don't we just nail it to the floor?" "Oh, great idea." So they get some nails, hammer, they nail it to the floor. It's all set up, ready to go. They decorate it, and then in walks Bezos. So the story goes. Looks at the tree and then turns it into a teaching moment. Asks, "Why is that tree nailed to the floor?" And the answer was, "Well, this isn't our place. We're just renting." And he makes an illustration out of it. Says, "Look, at Amazon, we have people that own. We don't have people that rent. We don't have people that are leasing a job. We have owners of jobs. And I want an ownership mentality in this company because it really creates an extraordinary culture of excellence. At Amazon, their leaders are owners. They think long-term. They don't sacrifice long-term value. They don't say it's not my job. They act on behalf of the entire company. They take responsibility and accountability for decisions and actions. So they're accountable people. They think like owners, and it creates this extraordinary mentality throughout the entire experience for the people that work there and for their customers. So it really is something that we need to work on as an industry, is making sure that people that work for us are not renters. They're not leasers. They're owners. They're here to stay, and they want to be a part of what we are. Add on to optimizing people, back to basics, set clear expectations and follow up, and teach to understanding. A lot of times we set expectations, we follow up, but people don't really understand what we want. And you never forget what you understand, but you can forget what you know. So it goes in one ear, out the other, especially if you're busy. So I want to hammer again on implementing a learning management system, because they're absolutely critical at this time, because it puts control of the learning in the hands of your people. So this is something like Wisetail. There's some various tools that are out there, but you really want to make sure that you're implementing a learning management system, because it's going to drive you to document everything. It's going to make you put your SOPs down. It's going to make you make sure that your ops manual is current and thorough, because that'll create a consistent onboarding and training experience. One of the biggest complaints of people that quit, because most people quit within the first 6 months, is my training was terrible. So by documenting everything and laying it out, you can get people, number one, on board quicker. Number two, you can get them a better training experience. So, and it'll be consistent. So having those learning management systems, having everything documented, will allow them to come up to snuff quicker. And years ago, I used to have this little training manual in my car, and every time I opened up the trunk, it said, "Repetition is the key. Repetition is the key. Repetition is the key." So repetition is the key to making sure that you are in control of the training experience. Sorry, my phone just rang there. So making sure that you're repeating yourself, the training consistent, and reinforces the behavior that you want to see. And then ensure that meal and breaks are in compliance. Recently on a phone call, I threw this one on there because recently on a phone call with an attorney, he mentioned that we have 3 groups of attorneys, 3 law offices out of California that are really hitting the Northwest hard, and they're going after meal and break compliance. And if you've ever worked or have a business in California, you know that they're really sticky around their breaks, and they're very, very punitive if there's an issue. So these then could potentially turn into a class action lawsuit and then end up costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, if you're large enough. And so they are actively targeting groups of restaurants in the Northwest. So if you have more than one restaurant, very likely that you may be on their target list. So you want to make sure that all your meal and your breaks are in compliance, that they're recorded, that people know how to take a break. And this is something that you can work with your attorney on, because it's bigger than just throwing something in an employee manual. You want to make sure that you're in complete compliance, because it is very, very scary. The things to look at on a daily basis when you optimize your people is the in and out times. Are they coming in on time? Are they getting out on time? If not, why not? So is there sales that are associated with those? That would be a great thing. Is it somebody clocking in early and clocking out late because they're slow or disengaged and they just want to pick up their check? That's a bad thing. So make sure you're managing those on a daily basis. Sales per hour worked. Make sure you're spending your labor, not just using labor, because you're actually paying for those people to work. You want to make sure that you're spending labor dollars, not just using labor dollars. Ticket times, make sure they're right in the wheelhouse. So you watch those on a daily basis. That can show you how your team is performing on a regular basis. Your guest check average, again, make sure that your guest check average is growing. Your sales per person, both in the front and the back. And then again, make sure you're managing your break compliance on a daily basis. That is something that we haven't done on a regular basis as an industry very well in Washington State. And it is time that you do that. See, there's a question?
Yeah,